Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. We have entered the month of September, which for most of us, we would consider this potentially the toughest month of the year to fish for bass. You know, at the start of the month, we've got really warm temperatures. You can still have dog days as summer type days. And by the end of the month, we're pretty much into the fall. And therefore, because the air temperatures are dropping, the water temperatures drop as well, which puts the fish in transition modes. They're not quite in their fall areas where they're going to start feeding up for the winter, but they're not in their summer areas as well. They're scattered everywhere, which makes it really difficult to fish for bass during the month of September, no matter where you're at in the country. It's just one of those months where the fish are scattered, and therefore you kind of have to realize that when you head out on the water, it's probably not going to be a banner day. You generally don't find big schools of fish in September where you can just sit there and pound on them. It's usually one fish here, one fish there, a lot of junk fishing, a lot of doing a little bit of everything to generate those bites. So what I've got for you though are a bunch of different tips that you can implement this time of year to improve your success on the water. You know, there's a lot of things that you can do to generate a few additional bites that would normally take a really tough day of fishing into a decent day of fishing. You know, again, I'm not going to sit here and say you're going to pound on them, but I do think there's things that you can do to really improve your success. So we'll get into those. Before I do, I want to remind you guys that if you want to support the channel, please use my Tackle Warehouse affiliate link to purchase your tackle. The link is in the description of the video. It's very, very much appreciated. It helps support the channel. And guys, September is a tough month. But here's the first tip I would really recommend to you. If you have the ability to go out and find someplace with current, whether that's a reservoir that's got current flow or a river or a stream in your area, current is your friend this time of year. You still have a lot of fish that are going to be set up in their summer areas utilizing the maximum amount of current that they can find. Therefore, that makes them an easy target because you can just look for those pinch points. You can look for island heads, cut banks, kind of like we've got here. You can look for rock jetties, anything where you've got something that pokes out into the main current of a river or reservoir. You're probably going to have a good number of fish that are still using that area. Like on the Mississippi River, you got good sandbar bites. The wing dam bite starts to turn on. Those are areas that the fish are going to start congregating to because the bait fish are going to be in those areas as well. So the fish that are starting to fatten up for the fall are going to be there or start getting there, as well as some of the fish that have been there all summer long because they're looking for the strongest current. So if you have the ability to fish someplace with current, I highly recommend that. Another suggestion would be to downsize. Go with something like a wacky rig or a drop shot or a Ned rig. Something small, something finessey are good baits to generate strikes. You know, a lot of times this time of year, I find the fish to be pretty lethargic. And because of that, they're not in super aggressive modes. Generally, when they are really aggressive, it's going to be your low light periods, your peak feeding windows. But the rest of the day, they're going to be more lethargic. They're just not looking to expend a lot of energy. And because of that, your drop shots, your wacky rigs, those types of baits are going to be ones that help you to generate some additional bites. Now to counter that, what I would say is if you're looking to power fish, I would throw a topwater, whether it's like a plopper style bait, like a Chopo or Whopper plopper or a buzz bait, a topwater bait that can cover a lot of water. This is a time of year when the topwater really can dominate and generate a lot more strikes than other baits. So the fish are still willing to come up and hit a topwater. So for me, during the month of September, generally speaking, I'm going to be going with a topwater. I'm going to be going with some finesse style baits, you know, something just to keep it simple where you're going to generate more bites, or efficient where you can cover a lot more water. You know, on top of that, another tip that I would highly recommend is to fish those areas that are more the transition zones. You know, you've got those areas that connect summertime flats and wintering locations. So your points, your deep break lines off of flats, your saddles that connect maybe a point to a hump because they winter on the hump but they're feeding on the point. You want to try to identify those high travel areas. That's easier said than done, But it's really important to do that because this time of year, like I said, there's a lot of fish that are transitioning. They're moving in, they're moving out. You know, you've had fish that are all summer long that have been deep, and with the cooler temperatures, they start moving shallower, and you've had fish that are shallower all summer long, and they start moving deeper for winter months. So because of that, you want to find those travel areas. So I really like points, I really like saddles, and I really like steep break lines, like right where they taper off on a flat, kind of like a bluff end type area. Bluffs can be really good this time of year as well. My last tip for you would be to go with something that mimics more minnow type presentation. So I know I mentioned throwing your finesse baits, you know, your drop shots and wacky rigs, but those are kind of in their own category. I think it's important to start thinking about the shad, because the shad become much more important. I mean, they're important all year long, but the shad, the bluegill, the perch, you really start having the bigger fish starting to key on the bigger shad, the bigger perch, and the bigger bluegill, because they start keying in on that to fatten up for the winter. So if you can find the bait, that's very, very important. And you know, a lot of times that means your bait choice should mimic the bait. You know, you want to throw some shad colors, some white colors, things that mimic the shad can be really good. Your pearls, those types of choices, because the bass are really going to start keying in on the forage. Even on the lakes that are bluegill dominated and perch dominated, like we have up here in the North Country, I still find that the whites and the shads work really well at this time of year. Keep in mind that, you know, perch and bluegill still have a very silvery undertone to them, and therefore they're not just specifically, you know, green hues. But I do think that's important. The last tip I would give you is just to know that when you head out on the water, you're probably not going to have this killer day. You want to go out with the mindset that, hey, if I can generate 5 or 10 bites today, that's going to be a pretty good bite. And therefore, you just don't want to go out and get down on yourself right away. You know, a lot of times I say that this sport is very, very mental. It very much is, especially when you're talking about the month of September on potentially what is already a very difficult body of water to fish. So, knowing that, the last thing I would add is, because you know it's going to be tough, I think it's always important to go out and fish your confidence things. You know, if you're going to go out and you're going to engage in some tough fishing, you might as well be using the baits and fishing in a manner that you feel fits your strengths. So if you're a shallow water power fisherman, by all means go fish shallow water. If you prefer deep water, go fish deep water, because like I said, this time of year, the fish are scattered everywhere. You can fish your strengths and do it successfully no matter where you're at in the country. So guys, I hope this was helpful. If it was, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned, we'll have another video coming out tomorrow for you.